Now, U.S. aid, like this is yet another instance where, like, again, Trump is doing something, okay, that I feel is not necessary. Like, I feel like it's something that under different circumstances I might not have even had an issue with. But of course, the way he's doing it and why he's doing it is entirely separate. This is why I call him JD Pond Don. U.S. aid in and of itself is obviously, openly, not even like a secret, a very important aspect of the American State Department. Okay, they do international development. Okay, now it is oftentimes masked as humanitarian aid, but there's plenty of aid that it actually offers the CIA, for example. Okay, opening up or helping develop the infrastructure for civil society organizations and whatnot that actually create an easier ground of destabilization and even potentially, further intervention later down the line. Having said that, however, there is a lot of good that this organization does in the process as well. It's an important aspect of American soft power.
It was an independent agency started by President John F. Kennedy at the height of the Cold War.
The conquest of poverty.
A way of countering Soviet influence by providing billions of dollars in U.S. humanitarian, development, and economic aid.
It's his own agency, not under the State Department? Yeah. Come on, chatter. First of all, every agency that touches American foreign policy is still controlled by the American State Department. Why do you think Anthony Blinken gets U.S. aid memos as the Secretary of State and then lies about the memos that he got about the genocide that is ongoing in Gaza from the U.S. aid department?
Around the world to those most in need. At least it did, until Donald Trump decided he didn't like those running it.
It's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
But by this morning, the decision had been made and the agency shut down, seemingly by Trump's self-appointed efficiency czar, Elon Musk, who said on X with no evidence, USAID is a criminal organization. Time for it to die. And that followed a confrontation over the weekend where two of the agency's top security officials were removed from the building after refusing to give Musk's staff access to restricted areas.
What we have here is not an apple with a worm in it.
I truly don't understand how or why the Trump administration is doing a bunch of this stuff that dismantles American foreign policy, because it doesn't make sense. Okay, this is akin to saying we are going to dismantle NATO. Okay, that's it. NATO is a demonstration of American soft power and hard power. NATO is profoundly beneficial to our military industrial complex. I see that as a bad thing. Okay, U.S. aid, in a similar vein, plays a formative role in American soft power globally. Okay, sometimes that's good. Sometimes it actually does a bunch of good, right? In places that are underserved. But ultimately, the reason why this department exists is not because America's woke and wants to help combat HIV in Africa, for example, okay? Or they want to genuinely improve the literacy rates globally. They don't want that shit. They don't care. They don't care about that at all. They want to have influence on the ground with real citizens, with actual nationals of that foreign state. So it works at the behest of American foreign policy, just like NATO does, and it also works at genuinely destabilizing a lot of our foreign adversaries. So while it does good, there's also a lot of bad that it does. But regardless of the good and the bad, it's still ultimately working at the behest of American empire. So I don't understand why Donald Trump would work to undermine that, especially as someone who's like, America's number one. We gotta reassert our dominance around the globe. Why the fuck would you take a tool out of the tool belt and throw it in the trash in that process? A cool thing USA did. Oh, excuse me. They were improving literacy rates in Taliban controlled areas of Afghanistan. Hello? Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you didn't want people to learn math and in madrasas, specifically with textbooks that blatantly promoted jihad, militancy, and violence through graphic language and imagery. The textbook including clear messages aimed at evoking hostility towards Russian invaders and promoting violent retribution against occupiers of Afghanistan. Textbooks designed to teach children to read in basic mathematics, simultaneously emphasizing weaponry, killings, jihad, and Islamism. My dream is to get one of these textbooks. They're amazing. It's got like, it teaches math. It's comical. You know how like Israelis will say like Palestinians learn to hate Jews from birth at these schools. And then like they'll say like they're depicting Israelis as enemy combatants when they're teaching math. Like this is literally that. Okay? No, it's jihad math. I'm not even joking. Yes, and it was created in the United States of America. Okay? Learning the alphabet. These children are taught. Jim is for jihad. Jihad is an obligation. My uncle went to jihad. Our brothers gave water to the mujahideen. Textbooks designed to teach math and language are filled with depictions of Kalashnikov rifles, grenades, and military ammunition. However, the great irony is that these textbooks were produced, funded, and distributed by the U.S. government using taxpayer dollars. The Taliban regime, which President Bush deplored as an enemy which aids terrorists and barbaric criminals who profane a great religion by committing murder in its name, is using and reprinting American-funded materials to propagate its radical ideology among the Afghan youth. Why would the United States fund textbooks that promote a dangerous message antithetical to American values? By the way, apparently some of these books are still very much circulated in Afghanistan to this day. USAID-sponsored school textbooks taught Afghan children to count 1 machine gun, 2 knives, 3 pistols to fight against the Russian infidel. I need one of these textbooks so bad. All right, let's continue.
But we have actually just a bowl of worms. And USAID is a bowl of worms. Mm-hmm. There is no apple. And when there is no apple, you've just got to basically get rid of the whole thing.
US aid represents less than 1% of the federal budget, and yet President Trump, advised by Elon Musk, has decided it's been taken over by radical liberals who are spending billions of dollars worth of taxpayer money on projects that don't tally with Trump's America First agenda.
Like, that's what I see. This is what doesn't make sense. USAID is America First agenda. USA First is USAID is America First to its core. Like, what is happening? What is going on? This action, unironically, is against the expansion of American empire. Do they simply look at this and go, we should privatize this as well? Like, I don't understand it. I genuinely don't get it. Unless these guys are like undercover Maoists and they just want to dismantle the American empire piece by piece, it doesn't make any sense why they're doing this. I truly don't get it. Like, were the MAGA communists right? Is this a thing? Like, am I so delusional that I just could not comprehend it? Is JD Pond not a meme? Is JD Pondon not a meme, but instead the reality in front of my eyes? What the hell is going on? Or are they so stupid that they think like the U.S. aid actually does what it claims it does, which is aid foreign nations that are underserved, and they just racistly hate that, and they don't realize the true purpose of it, so they're just trying to pick it apart for scraps. Like, they think we're doing DEI. in these countries. We're like forcing DEI in these countries, which is ironic because I thought DEI initiatives were a bad thing. So wouldn't you be undermining those countries by doing DEI if you hate these countries? Isn't that a good thing? None of it makes sense.
So they're shutting it down and reorganizing, and other spending in departments could go the same way.
Hank the Tank, you think China, CIA first, wrong? Nothing can stop what's coming. You think China needs help from the U.S.? What do you mean China needs help? I don't think China needs help from the U.S. I think the U.S. is helping China without realizing. I think Donald Trump is... I don't necessarily think this is a bad thing, by the way, but I do think that the United States is actually developing multipolarity right now. Like every step of the way. It's so funny because liberals used to post like Maoist Trump as an own. We do that as a positive here in this community, right? And what conservatives like Hank the Tank don't understand is that like what Donald Trump is doing is actually undermining your I guess like your worldview. But like I've said, Sun Tzu, never interrupt your opponent when he's in the process of making a mistake. I'm just gonna let it happen.
Arbitrarily axed as part of the White House.
Makes as much sense as a Luka Doncic trade. Yeah. No, everything is Luka.
House push to remake the federal government. Contract workers who turned up at the agency today were visibly shaken by Musk's seemingly unfettered power.
I think everyone's shocked. I think everyone knew that there would be a clash of ideals and that there would be a clash of systems and values, but no one expected this. What is happening now through people like Elon Musk, there is no mandate for that. There is no mandate, and I think it's incredibly jarring to watch.
This is all scary. I also don't think that Trump has control over the White House anymore. It's now Elon Musk, and we've seen that in the way that he's just blatantly taken over.
By the way, yeah, for everybody that was like constantly talking about Russiagate, turns out it wasn't Russiagate, it was Chinagate all along. Like, my man went to the Forbidden Palace and it changed his life, dude. It changed the way he sees the world. Like, the grand plan was always for the Chinese century of prosperity.
US aid is continuing to run emergency food programs in places like Gaza, while Musk's team carries out massive cuts, and the rump will likely be...
Why is everyone shocked that this is happening? We've all been saying this would happen if Trump won. No, because it doesn't... The reason why I'm personally shocked about these kinds of initiatives is because I get the concentration camp stuff, right? Even though it's a self-own, even though it harms the American economy, even though it will lead to an inevitable increase in prices like hyperinflation. But as far as like Trump doing this actually undermines America and America's influence around the globe. If you want to keep being the dominant country on the planet, these are some of the things that you need to maintain. So for him to actually go against this is like, it's like if Donald Trump turned around and was like, yeah, we're actually dismantling the profit, the for-profit interests of the healthcare industry piece by piece.
Assumed into the State Department. Trump insisted today that Musk wouldn't make any decisions without his approval.
But he does have a good natural instinct. He's got a team of very talented people. We're trying to shrink government, and he can probably shrink it as well as anybody else, if not better.
Never mind that US aid was established by an act of Congress, and only Congress, in theory, can dismantle it.
And is this potential trade war...
The other thing is, like, I don't think that, like, American interference is going away. Okay? That's the other side of the story. I just don't think, like, they might shut down US aid, but something similar to it will always exist. Maybe it's a method change, right? One of the things one of the things that is a little bit different with the way Republicans do things, with the way the Republicans operate, is that they're very blunt. Okay? Yeah, this chatter is correct. It may be all stick, no carrot. You know what I mean? No more dangling carrot, no more covert influence operations, no more psyops, just straight, what you see is what you get. We're taking it, and there's not a thing you can do about it. That could potentially be the difference here. Like, it's less covert influence and more overt influence. I assume that will be the modus operandi of this government. Perhaps privatization of this government agency. You know, offering these to contractors and outsourcing it to private enterprise to engage in these sorts of covert operations. Perhaps it'll be centralized directly under the State Department, under the CIA. I don't know. But I just don't think that the goals of this agency. Bro, you're stuck on this just like on the Russia invasion. Just because it doesn't make sense doesn't mean it isn't true. Thiel and Yarvin are steering the ship, and they want oligarch city-states. Wait, what? Dude, I don't disagree with neo-feudalism that's happening in front of our eyes. What are you talking about? There is no disagreement there. I'm just saying that on its face, this development, the undermining of U.S. aid, which still benefits American empire, the ultimate goals of this agency have not changed. Donald Trump is not like a world unifier, okay? He is not trying to de-escalate American interference in foreign nations. If that was the case, he would be handling Israel a lot differently. He'd be handling Ukraine a lot differently. So far, he hasn't, right? There's some shifts that have taken place, and we'll see what kind of results it'll yield. But having said that, he's not going to decide all of a sudden that America is only interested in developing the United States of America and no longer interested in like maintaining its global hegemonic superpower. U.S. aid is not just interference. It is the largest funder of all humanitarian aid in the world. I am 500 of my colleagues just got furloughed from there. No, I know. I'm saying that there is also good there as well. So I suspect that maybe they'll take away like any number of different aid initiatives that USAID actually engaged in, and will simply only do the bad interference shit. There's a statement from the State Department 4 hours ago, from Trump's State Department. The United States Agency for International Development USAID, has long strayed from its original mission of responsibly advancing American interests abroad, and it is now abundantly clear that significant portions of USAID funding are not aligned with the core national interests of the United States. As an interim step towards gaining control and better understanding over the agency's activity, President Donald J. Trump appointed Secretary Marco Rubio as acting administrator. See, that's what I mean. First of all, you think Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who is like the number one China hawk and Mr. CIA, is going to fucking turn around and all of a sudden be like, we're pulling a JFK. We're picking apart USAID piece by piece. Do you see what I'm saying? Secretary Rubio was confirmed by the entirety of the Senate, by the way. 99 votes in favor of his confirmation. Secretary Rubio has now also notified Congress that a review of USAID's foreign assistance activities is underway with an eye towards potential reorganization. As we evaluate USAID and ensure its alignment with an America First agenda and the efforts of the State Department, we will continue to protect the American people's interests and ensure tax dollars are not wasted. No, Bernie wasn't even the fucking holdout. He voted for it too. I forget who was like the person who abstained. The way I see this is the way I foresee this is they take out all the soft power stuff and just keep hard power all the way and become an increasingly more militant version of itself, not realizing that soft power plays a role in military might. Something that I've repeated over and over again is that without soft power, without America maintaining its prominent position as like the top diplomat, okay, without being the global leader of any kind of intervention and any kind of initiatives, 800 military bases all of a sudden can very quickly, almost overnight, turn into 800 different military invasions. Okay? Security cooperative agreements can turn into direct boots on the ground military warfare. And that can happen very quickly. The only thing that aesthetically keeps that as a security cooperative agreement and not like direct military invasion and direct military occupation is the attitude that these countries have towards the United States of America. Do you get it? Do you understand? It's something that I've mentioned quite a bit in this past year because of Israel, because of America's hardline approach to Israel, which the Biden administration certainly accelerated.
Elon Musk's task force has been pushing to gain access to sensitive government information targeting a federal agency. Chief Washington correspondent John Carl has that story. Good morning, John.
Good morning, George. Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency have promised to take a wrecking ball to the federal government, vowing to cut trillions of dollars in spending and to dramatically reduce the number of government employees. Now we have learned that his team has gained access to something extraordinarily sensitive, the system that the Treasury Department uses to disperse almost every check and expenditure of any kind made by the U.S. government. Sources tell ABC News that Elon Musk's team now has access to the Treasury Department's payment system, essentially the government's checkbook, which processes trillions of dollars in payments and includes personal information for hundreds of millions of Americans. The access was granted over the weekend over the objection of at least one senior Treasury Department official who has been put on leave. Neither the White House nor Treasury Department has responded.
Did Elon Musk find these guys on Twitter, by the way? Hype train, baby. We got a hype train going. Let's go. We've entered the cool zone. We've been in the cool zone. We've been firmly inside of the cool zone. The zone where historians talk about what went wrong. They're all Theo Blood Boys and SpaceX interns. Nice. Very cool that a bunch of groiped up shouties are now tasked with undermining federal agencies. It's craziness.
To our request for comment. But after midnight last night, billionaire Elon Musk talked about his efforts to shake up the government on his social media platform, X.
There's already been really tremendous progress. We've, rough estimate is that there's at least a few $1 billion a day of savings.
One of Musk's top targets, USAID, the federal government's foreign aid agency.
As we dug into USAID, it became apparent that what we have here is not an apple with a worm in it, but we have actually just a bowl of worms.
On Friday night, a Doge team showed up at the USAID offices in Washington and demanded access, sources familiar with the incident tell ABC News. After a standoff, security guards ultimately led them in. Now, more than 100 USAID staffers have been placed on leave. Many more have been locked out of internal systems, and the organization's Trump-appointed chief of staff has resigned. USAID's $43 billion budget is a tiny fraction of federal spending, about 1%. But its support is a critical lifeline for people in need around the world, all while spreading American goodwill. Combating malaria, for example, an effort estimated to have saved nearly 12 million lives.
Like that right there is a good example. Like not everything the USA does is fucking, not everything the USA does is bad. Okay. That's a great example of this. Spreading American goodwill is done for a nefarious purpose, but it's still actually helping people. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? And I suspect that they're just going to only spread American ill will and cut out the good stuff. No more covert operations, no more influence peddling. Just straight, you do this or you die. America no longer the good guy? No, America was never the good guy. But it's more so America no longer even maintaining the aesthetic presence of being the good guy who sometimes does bad at the behest of good, okay? Should China pick up the goodwill? China already has been doing that. Remember, in the Philippines, China sent a shit ton of Sinovac to the Philippines, okay? During the peak of COVID. And what did the American government do? The American CIA and the American State Department basically said, oh, this is not good. China's actually doing soft power stuff. We don't like it. Instead of actually sending, I don't know, our own COVID pharmaceuticals to the Philippines, we decided to task the agency with undermining the Filipino confidence in vaccines in general. And we spent millions of dollars and used bots to basically get Filipino people to mistrust vaccines. We made them more anti-vaxxer. We made them anti-vax. So look forward to more initiatives like that. Is there an article on it? Yes, there's a Reuters article that someone in the chat immediately linked. When I mention stuff, chatters, usually my editors will slap it on to the video on YouTube. But when I'm mentioning something off Top Dome, like I'm mentioning things that I've read and investigated on this broadcast, contrary to what my haters fucking claim, if their own ineptitude causes them to not be able to figure out these things that I'm talking about, instead of, I mean, they should probably seek a little bit deeper and try to figure out where this information is coming from instead of simply saying Hassan just lies and he's wrong all the time. Okay? That's what's so frustrating about this process, because it's much easier to just be like, Hassan is just lying and he's wrong. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find this article. Okay? They will just call your fact-dropping lies and refuse to look it up themselves. I know. And then so many people are just misguided. I'm Filipino. Fuck you all. Wait, what? Yeah, USA didn't try to make them anti-vax. They tried to make them anti-Sinovax, but it led to disastrous consequences of Filipinos anti-vax against all vaccines. Yeah, no shit. That's how it works. There's no way that you can just like make them exclusively against one kind of vaccine. You are wrong very rarely. What am I wrong about? Star Thrace, thank you for the 5 gifted subs.
partnership with the U.S. military, USAID officials have often been first to arrive with disaster relief, providing food, water, shelter, and health care to allies and partners.
And this just in, USAID employees are waking up this morning to an email notice telling them not to show up to work today, as Musk says he is shutting the agency down. All of this, George, is happening over the loud objections of Democratic leaders in Congress who say that Elon Musk simply does not have the authority to do what he is now doing.
Well, that's going to be tested right now, but it is something remarkable when the biggest contributor to Donald Trump's campaign is now taking those actions inside the government. At the same time, tremendous unrest inside the FBI as prosecutors and agents who worked on the January 6th investigation are being targeted.
George, it looks like a wholesale purge of the FBI. As you know, already the 8 top officials at the Federal Bureau of Investigation have either been fired or forced to resign. Now they are being asked to, the FBI is being asked to produce a list of every employee who worked on any case related to January 6th. I am told this is some 6,000 FBI employees all told. All this has prompted an extraordinary email that went out over the weekend from the top FBI official in the New York field office saying, "Today we find ourselves in the middle of a battle of our own as good people are being walked out of the FBI and others are being targeted because they did their jobs in accordance with law and the FBI policy." That is somebody who has not yet been, who's still on the job, at least for now.
Boy, that is really something. You know, we really don't know how this story is going to end, but in this first 2 weeks of the Trump administration, we've never seen this kind of scope of executive action, which is going to be tested in the courts and in Congress.